Welcome to the Porsche Club Insider, your one stop for all things Porsche and PCA. Here's your host, Vu Gwyn, and the Insider crew.
Welcome, everyone. It's a soggy day here in Maryland. At the table, we have Manny, Albin, and myself, and Damon is at the controls. We want to make sure we thank Pirelli for their sponsorship. Without their support, this wouldn't happen. And I want to thank you all for listening. If you aren't currently a PCA member and own a Porsche, grab that VIN, head over to PCA.org and make yourself a member. It's just $56 a year. And for those of you that don't currently own a Porsche, check out our test drive program where we unlock resources and help you find that special Porsche for your driveway or garage. And better yet, as a member, you also get access to the PCA member only raffles. This spring, we are raffling off a GT3 plus $35,000. And we've just crossed the threshold where we have the second grand prize, which is a 911 Carrera, as well as $35,000. And as more people buy more entries, we add more cars. So with that, I think this episode is going to be particularly fun because we run the gamut from going air-cooled all the way to Porsche's latest technology.
Yeah, man, it's a show just with us. No guests this time.
No guests, just us. Let's kick it off with our recent visit to the Porsche Experience Center in Atlanta. June 7th, I think they're actually celebrating their 10th anniversary. So I think they're having some sort of shindig there and recognize that they've been 10 years in operation. And I also look to my right and I realize we're wearing 10-year-old shirts with our 60th anniversary.
Hundreds of shirts you have, you decided to wear them.
We're twinning.
Not me, at least. Not triplets.
All right, let's talk about the first car that we got to take out while we were down there. And this one, I don't know if it's, some people will consider it controversial. I know when you talk about straight up 100% EV cars, it can be controversial in the car world. But this one is the 911 GTS T-Hybrid.
Yeah, I think what hurt them was using the word hybrid. Even though that's used in IndyCar, even though that's used in IMSA and GTP, I think people immediately thought this is made for gas savings, or this is going to be a hybrid like a Prius where you could go electric only if you want it, and it's not like that at all.
Now, we got a preview of the GTS T-Hybrid at Works Reunion Amelia Island earlier this year. Didn't get to drive it. We did some social media pieces on it. But this time we got to have a real world experience. And Damon, you probably spent the most time behind the wheel of that car while we were in meetings.
Yeah, I did. I took it out to do a video and probably spent about 30 to 35 minutes driving the car. And as I'm talking here, if you're on YouTube, I'm just flipping through photos. But I'll try and describe everything the best I can. It's a Carrera 4 GTS T-Hybrid in gentian blue. And I don't have the options and things in front of me. Watch that video when it comes out, and I'll cover all those things. But it had things like nose lift. It had the PASM suspension raised 10 millimeters. So the GTS suspension delete. So it's the same ride height as a Carrera for going over bumps, driving on maybe bumpy roads. But yeah, it's a T-Hybrid. Quick charge, quick discharge. I started my drive with about 36% in the battery, and after about 5 minutes of driving, I think it was already back up to 70, 80% with minimal braking. But what a cool, powerful car with a really characterful drivetrain. You know, you wouldn't know that there's an electric motor in there unless somebody told you, I think, or you saw the, what do you call them? The display options showing the performance, how the battery is delivering power to the motor, or whether the turbo is charging the battery or putting more power to the motor. Brilliant car. And I can get into some more in a little bit as well, but I'd be wondering, Manny, Vu, did you think it was an awesome drive with a short amount of time you had behind it as well?
It felt like a normally aspirated car. Number one, I didn't even remember it had a turbo. I felt no lag. I guess my old man hearing, I couldn't even hear the turbo.
Yeah, I could hear the turbo.
Yeah, I couldn't hear it. It was And if you didn't know it was a hybrid, there's no way you've been able to tell. Even in the interior, unless, like Damon said, we switched over to the screen where you could see it charging the battery. But other than that, there's nothing that says hybrid that I saw in the inside. So it felt like to me, like a normally aspirated car. There was no lag, no delay. It was just everything was so smoothless and seamless that, that's the future. That's what the next generation of 911s are going to be. Then I think we're fine.
Can you share with our listeners the powertrain setup that makes it? It's not your traditional hybrid. It's a little bit different than, as Manny mentioned earlier, in the Prius. What size the battery is, and how is that power delivered through the powertrain?
So you're asking me to bring up a bunch of stats now. I can't remember all the numbers, but
you got to do the long-term drive. I got like a 10-minute drive, so.
Yeah. So I can't tell you battery stats, but I'm pretty sure it's 1.9 kilowatt hours. It's a very small battery. I'll have to double check on that, but 1.9 kilowatt hours. So very small compared to the 95, 100 kilowatt hour batteries that are inside the Taycans. And the motor itself makes about 54 horsepower, and I think it's 110 pound-feet of torque. And the car itself, the flat six, goes from 3 liters twin turbo to 3.6 liters single turbo, and the engine power goes from 473 to 478. The torque stays for the motor at 420 pound-feet. When it's all added together, you get more in the range of, I think it's 530 something horsepower, 540 something. And as Manny said, you wouldn't know that there's an electric motor in there, except for the fact that there's a really big turbo. And if your hearing's, better than Manny's, you'll hear it in the back right, which is where it's located, huffing and puffing away. Yet there's no turbo lag that's associated with such a big turbocharger. So what Michael Tam was explaining to me before my drive, and, I had about, as I said, 30, 35 minutes to drive this thing. And so I was trying to take everything in that I could. But it has, I want to say brake regeneration, but it actually might not be. It might just be turbocharge and... but the turbocharger regenerates the battery. The turbocharger can also put energy straight into the electric motor. At above 5,600 RPM, the turbocharger is being spun by its own electric motor to add more boost to the engine, I believe. So that's when it's on full song. If you're full throttle past like 5,600 RPM, the car is putting all it can into power. I had two areas where I could go full throttle in second gear and shift up to into third gear. And the one time I did this was kind of pulling out, very big road, no cars coming, taking a wide left. I get the car straightened out, just jam my foot onto the throttle pedal. And this car feels like a Turbo or Turbo S in the way it accelerates, scrabbling for traction. And, the quick shift of PDK in the third, and then I just slow it down on the brakes, back down to a speed that, is appropriate for the area. But very good car. You would never know that it's hybrid.
The motor in the drivetrain, is it the flywheel, the electrified flywheel?
Yes, thanks for reminding me. Yeah. So it's a lot like an aftermarket hybrid system that I've driven. It's a flywheel replacement of sorts. So the flywheel's taken out, an electric motor is put into its place, so it sits between the engine and the transmission. And that's how it's able to pretty seamlessly just add power when needed. Torque fill, or if you just need more power, if you're full throttle.
But it has no traditional starter.
Right.
And it has no belts.
No belts?
No belts. No belts. There's no drive belts, no accessory
electric
belts,
AC.
Nothing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I know that you were going to go into the details, and I went to it like a newbie. Like, just having the opportunity to drive a new 911 was the excitement there. And could I get into this T-Hybrid, new technology, and just drive it with I didn't talk to Michael Tam ahead of time. I didn't do anything like that. I just got in and press the start button, put it reverse, put it in drive, and there's this on-ramp next to PEC going onto the highway. That's kind of like a little chicane little thing. And I've driven a number of cars on that. And I have to say, just as Manny said, I didn't even think about the hybrid system part of it. I just thought, man, this car has a very linear pull. Like no, I didn't feel any sort of like turbo lag. It just, the power came on strong and got up to speed very quickly. And it was, the car, again, when you talk about electric cars, sometimes people talk about the weight of the battery and how heavy they are. This car felt as nimble as a 911 should be. And the battery in the T-Hybrid is tiny. It's in the location, whereas normally you find in the center front
where the
area.
normal battery is center in front of the cabin's firewall.
Right.
And then the 12 volt, which still runs all the normal electronics in the car, infotainment and all that, is in the back, I believe,
rear deck,
underneath the parcel shelf,
right,
or
exactly.
seats if you have rear seat option.
If you're wondering, it was 103 pounds difference by adding on this hybrid system with it. So that's very small.
Negligible.
Compared to what an EV we're used to, how much weight that adds with all the batteries. This was very small.
So it's interesting that you talk about weight. And going off of memory again, the Carrera 4 GTS is 3,635 pounds, and the Carrera GTS is 3,536. We're almost exactly in that range. So not the lightest car, but not super heavy for a hybrid. And I would say it punches in the ballpark of what a 911 Turbo weighs and performs.
I didn't feel like it was a heavy car. I felt like
Didn't feel heavy, no.
It got up and went, and the tires stuck, and it was a fun ride. That's how simplistic my review was. Is this still a fun car?
Yeah.
And yeah.
What I thought was interesting was how loud it was inside with the exhaust opened up, and I thought to myself, there's no way it can be that loud outside the car, because I could just see people around me. No one was turning their heads or anything. So I asked Michael Tam, I'm like, is that like the sound being amplified inside the car? Because it was pretty loud.
Wow. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And he said, you're hearing the actual engine of the car, but it's just amplified. So it's kind of best of both worlds, because you're not pissing off the people around you,
but you're having
by
fun.
Being obnoxious, but you're having a great time because it sounds phenomenal, with a full song, everything opened up. It was pretty impressive.
Will that be made, the GTS T-Hybrid made in conjunction with a standard GTS, or all GTSs are T-Hybrids now?
All GTSs are T-Hybrids now, and I've got a feeling, I haven't talked to any executives yet, or nobody's told me for sure about the next GT2 RS or turbos, but there's very clear evidence that if the big wings on 911s testing around the Nürburgring, or the turbos, which have been spotted with that sticker on the back that signifies that they're electrified, they're going to have a similar turbo system as well.
There's the base Carrera, there's Carrera T, Carrera S, Carrera GTS T-Hybrid, and then you get into the GT cars.
Yep, GT cars, turbos, and Turbo S's. Yep.
And thoughts of, or notions of a GT2 RS in the near future.
Well, it's one of our news items.
Yeah, I mean, it's... What else could it be?
Right.
Well, it has to, because they haven't changed the horsepower on the engines much at all. I think they reached like their peak. So this is the only way they can get into...
and the rumor is it'll be about 750 or so horsepower, which... The old GT2 RS was right around 700. Add a hybrid motor, and you get roughly 750, right?
Plus all the aero they've learned since the previous generation GT2 RS. I remember Walter Roll, didn't he say that the GT2 RS should never have been street legal?
No.
So I can imagine what the hybrid's going to be like.
Yeah.
Well, for those of you that were wondering what a hybrid 911 version would be, well, the GTS T-Hybrid is it. Before you make any sort of conclusions, I highly recommend you drive one first, because it it was an incredible drive, and thank you to the folks at PC and Michael Tam for spending time with us and allowing us to drive that. The next car was one that I was honestly, I wouldn't say more excited, but just because I've never driven one before, is the Macan Electric. And we actually got the opportunity to drive the Macan Electric Turbo, the one with, what's it called? Carbonite trim. And
Turbonite.
Oh, Turbonite. What did I say? Carbonite? Turbonite.
Yeah,
Turbonite.
I didn't get to drive it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So.
So Manny, what'd you think of that?
Well, I've driven the Macan, many different variations. So I think it was a great car back when I drove it originally. The Turbo is just the same roads we took on the that we took the GTS Hybrid, that we took the Turbo Macan. The Turbo Macan actually scared me. The acceleration was just so fast and seamless that yeah, you can get in so much trouble with that car.
Manny said for both cars he would lose his license in 10
because
days.
it's so addictive, because you can just punch the pedal and any traffic that you're in, you're gone.
Yeah.
It's and there was no fuss, no muss. There's no trying to hold it straight or anything. It's just very almost like a video game.
Yeah. For me, it was cool to be able to drive the car and see how it compares. I've driven ICE Macans before. Obviously, we have Cayennes and such like that, and I wanted to see the kind of power that has, and it does have a lot of power. But I would say it's still an SUV, right? When we drove because we drove the 911 GTS T-Hybrid after the Macan, like there's this, I don't even know how to explain it, but there's this wowee kind of like feeling when you're driving the 911 GTS T-Hybrid, and the sound, and it sounded very analog.
And the steering is a little heavier. Like I drove the Macan Turbo in the parking lot, just sort of moving around. And it feels like an SUV, really soft steering at parking speeds, which is what you want.
Right.
Whereas the GTS, you can tell, like, it feels like it has wider tires and stickier tires. You're lower, everything's firmer.
Exactly. That experience is unique to a sports car. And the Macan was, as you said, Manny, ridiculously fast. I was very impressed with, because it's an electric, you don't hear much, no, you don't have engine noise. You have tire noise still. So there's still sound, but the chassis and everything in the car was rock solid. No creaks, no rattles, no nothing. Like it was carved out of granite. I mean, it was very solid.
Yeah, Macan owners will feel right at home, because all the switches, everything is like the regular gas Macan, very similar. It's just the car is just a tad bit bigger. The rear seats, you can tell when you get in the rear seat, you have a little more room. Not a ton, it's a little bit more room, so it's a little bit bigger. From the outside, it looks bigger, but when you actually look at the measurements, it's just a tad bit bigger than the gas Macan.
I think for me, that would be welcome, because sometimes the standard Macan seems a little bit like a mid-size SUV, and 4 people can be comfortable, but 5 is kind of pushing it.
No.
5 is pushing it.
That's a legless person.
Exactly. I just I'll be honest with you, I love the look of the Macan Electric. I think the lines are nice. It's more aggressive. If you put it next to a standard Macan, I mean, not standard, but the ICE Macan, the current, it's just that starting to look dated. This new look, I much prefer it. I think it looks nice. Much more.
Just coming from someone who drives a 08 Cayenne.
I know. I didn't say I could afford it. I just said I like it. I think
it looks more like a hot hatch than the ICE Macan, and to me, that's a good thing.
It's more aggressive. Exactly.
Yeah.
No. This one was also trimmed out nicely. It had like painted vents and leather, and it even had do they all have that second? Manny was like playing games on the passenger seat.
That's an option. The third screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that third screen can only be seen by you.
Yep.
And as a driver, I don't know, you were tapping on. I thought you were playing a game. I'm not sure what you were doing, but I couldn't see it from the driver's side.
They had karaoke, which I would definitely not get in my car. They had all these games. I'm thinking, there's no way I would I would delete those things, because talk about distraction while you're driving.
Yeah. I also liked the center stack having tactile and knurled buttons and rotary volume knob. That's to me key, and not just one single flat display panel.
Our little Chevy Sonic, I don't know how they designed this, but they put the volume and the radio selector knob right on top of each other, and they're both round. So when you're driving, you go to reach.
Changing gears?
Most of the time, no. You're reaching to change. You're reaching the volume, but instead you're changing stations on the radio.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, who in the world designed that?
There's plenty of cars where they've done that. I think it's the Chrysler minivan that we always rent when we're traveling has the volume knob and the transmission selector all kind of in the same place. We learned to live with it. You didn't get to drive the Macan Turbo at all?
No, our day was packed.
Yeah.
I literally didn't have any time.
Did you shoot it or no?
Yeah, I shot some B-roll of the car in preparation for a review. Hey, Porsche, I can come back. But yeah, I have B-roll of the car, but our flights were leaving a little too
We had a
early.
busy 2 days.
Yeah, that
I
was
wish I could
super
say we
busy.
had time to hang around and
Yep.
play around, but it was pretty.
We got
regimented.
we got to knock out a podcast or two. I think we can mention that we spent some time with Calvin Kim.
Yeah, well, they would have listened to Calvin Kim already.
Oh, that would have already been out. Okay.
Yeah, hope you enjoyed.
Yeah, Calvin's awesome.
Yeah, a true enthusiast.
True enthusiast, and you probably
So if you guys remember, go back and watch that or listen to that episode if you haven't already, because this guy is such an enthusiast that he did all the engine work Vu did on his car, finished up 3 hours before he was driving cross country to Rensport.
That was insane. When he was
Respect.
saying that,
Yeah.
I was like,
How many times did they say respect on the like? I couldn't believe that.
Go watch that episode.
but he said he pulled
please.
over after 2 hours and then checked everything, plugged in his laptop, and if everything was okay, he was going to keep on going.
Yeah,
And
you
if-
definitely want to listen to that
And
part.
if you need anything more, he's versed really well, not just in Porsches, but he was with Road and Track for a very long time. So he's got a very good perspective.
So unlike Calvin, who did his engine work and then, his maiden voyage was within like 48 hours and went across the country, I did my engine refresh. I think it's almost a year to today. And I finally hammered it hard this last weekend because I took it out to the Chesapeake region autocross. So only a year. It took me only a year, and I was still nervous. I was like, oh, I hope I did everything right. But thanks to the Chesapeake region at Ripken Stadium, there was a number of autocrosses, and we'll talk about Damon because he was not there. He was at a different event. But the Chesapeake region, I like the Ripken lot. It's large, and so we had people running up, 50, I think 57 was the lowest time, and people were running in the 60s. So to have a 60-some second autocross, like that's a lot of
The way
driving
the
time.
grading
That
is,
is.
the way the grading is, a lot of times they can have off-camber turns.
Off-camera turns. And also we had 8 runs each.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is a lot.
Yeah, because most places you go, you're lucky if you get 4 to 5, and they're 4 to 5, 30-some, 40-some second runs. We had 8 60-second runs.
I
It
would,
was
I
awesome.
would love to see a chart to see did they improve beyond a certain amount. Because what I've always found, when you have that many runs,
You plateau.
usually about third or fourth would be your best run, and then you start to go down, and you don't.
I am
depends.
happy. I'm happy to say that I continually improved with each run, but I think that also because I'm assigned as an instructor and also people that do taste of autocross, they also put people in my cars. So I would say half of my runs were with people sitting on the right side. I don't know if that necessarily helps me or not. Obviously it adds weight, but I don't think it affects me that
Well,
much.
actually, so I have, if you're watching the podcast, I have a picture of the Pirelli Trofeo R's.
I love my
believe.
Trofeo R's.
And they're not autocross tires, as in on a cold day, they might be tough to warm up. But
Yes.
if you have 2 people in the car, warm those tires up even quicker.
So let me get my list of excuses here. So I was in the first heat, and we all know first heat is the cold heat and the cleanup crew, right?
Yeah.
Which is okay. I haven't autocrossed in so long, so it didn't really matter.
Wait, before we,
Yeah.
first heat, haven't autocrossed in so long.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't-
Is there another one in there?
I was going to say it was wet.
It was wet. It was raining
was wet.
before I went
Or-
out. I've got a list. I've got an extensive list, but I'm quite proud.
Sun was in your eyes that early in the morning.
I am quite proud that the car, especially with the rear sway bar reattached now,
Nice.
it is.
I was going to say, you were texting us that you were like number one in your class and you're in the top
Well, he
five.
was.
I was, and I was very happy with how the
Was that
car.
was because the rest of your class didn't run to the second heat?
No. Well, there was only one more person in my class, and that was Michael Ricketts. So and the funny thing is, we had caught up on Facebook and we were talking trash, online. And once we got there, we were actually parked next to each other. He drives a 997.
7.1 Carrera S, I believe.
Carrera S, yeah. So of course I'm like, well, you got more power, you got the modern technology, he's got spacers and wider wheels and blah blah blah. And like I was putting everything on the table just in case I was slower than him. But yeah, we kind of duked it out, and It was fun. It was fun. It's very cool to drive an older car and be within the same neighborhood of some faster hardware, and some people were out there with some quite modified cars. Shout out to Fong. We've autocrossed together for a while, and he's really stepped it up. I think he's an I now, which is improved.
Yep. He's been in I, which is my class as well. I'm in that class with John Cho and Pinto.
And if you've done it long enough, you kind of know who you should be in front of or be like 2 seconds behind. And I fell right into place. Like I wasn't like, I didn't fall 2 or 3 seconds slower than my normal pace. Like I landed right where I normally am with people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a great course. Car did well. I had the most fun. There was this, his name was Florian. And this is what I love about autocross.
Florian, I taught him on his very first autocross.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
With the ST?
A
He has
year
the
or
ST?
two ago.
He has an
the
ST.
RS.
Here's the thing.
He has an ST?
Focus RS.
Focus RS. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Focus RS, not an ST.
Different
Like,
ST. There's
that's
the
a heck
Focus
of a
ST.
car.
I was thinking
First-timer.
Focus ST, but he has a Focus RS. And we'll talk about where you went, and it's very specialized where, obviously the fast, quote unquote, autocrossers are, with SCCA. With a PCA autocross, we talked a little bit about this, Damon, is we have people that are SCCA quality people, but then you have people that are brand new, and then you have someone like Florian that's maybe done it for 3 years, still looking to improve. You have to have a course that makes it fun for that whole range of people. And I thought Chesapeake did a great job with that. And you know that because you don't see a string of DNFs. The worst thing is when a new person comes to autocross and all they do is DNF and they just don't even get a clean run. Like no one wins out of that. And so anyways, Florian, they assigned me Florian like halfway through his runs, and man, that car was impressive. And I got him, I think maybe a second or two faster, not faster than me. I was like, you shouldn't pass the teacher. And he got to like a few tenths of me, and I'm like, okay, that was pretty good.
Yeah,
he had the biggest smile.
He's getting there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And his car that car is super capable.
Yeah.
Like you could feel it from the passenger side of how quick it was, how sticky it was. And
You don't get car sick, or you're wearing a patch?
oddly enough, autocrossing, I don't get sick, maybe because it's too quick. Yeah, on a DE, I probably.
It wasn't a hot day either.
It wasn't a hot day. Yeah, it was a nice day, and yeah, and it also it was a very flowing, fast course setup, so I was okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So you didn't go out. You were where were you on Saturday?
Like Cars and Coffee.
Cars and Coffee. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was a beautiful day, so you must have had a ton of people there too.
Yeah, it was. The threat of rain in the morning probably kept some people away, but then more people started showing up once they realized it wasn't going to rain. And yeah.
And let's see, I think they mentioned they were down maybe 20 or so cars for Chesapeake because a lot of people went to where you were, Damon.
Yep, the SCCA Pro Solo. So you might have heard of Pro Solo. SCCA has a bunch of different autocrosses, autocross programs. There's the regional stuff with WDC region, Washington, D.C. region. Then you have the national tour, which I did that a few years ago, and that's like just a regular autocross, but with more skilled people showing up because it's a national thing. People travel around the country doing these autocross national tours. And then you have Pro Solo, which is also an SCCA national program that goes around the country and people travel for the championship. But the difference is, and I'm going to attempt to I'm going to start with all my runs.
So you'll have to talk through it for folks.
Yeah, and I'll talk through it and all that, and hopefully and let's see, I think.
So how
I'm
many
getting
cars
this
did
to
it
play.
get? They usually get to a Pro Solo, or was it your event? 'Cause
That doesn't seem to be
This
playing,
is a
actually.
pretty big deal. When
Yeah.
Damon told me he was going, I said, when I was autocrossing heavy, that was something you really looked up to, was a Pro Solo. If you were a Pro Solo champion, of which there were several in our area, that was regular Baltimore area autocrossers.
Yep. And I think I figured out what I was doing wrong here on the channel, so I will start playing this. And I'll bring the volume down a little bit more just so we can keep talking. But what you're going to see here is this is a 7-minute video, and I've cut out some of the stuff in between runs, but this is all done at once. So Friday is tech, and you sort of start the whole weekend off, get the tech out of the way, and put stickers on your car, the required SCCA, tire rack.
And how many cars are in this right now?
I think there were like 240 cars that went
So
through.
think about,
Wow.
for those
Yeah.
who autocross, what did Chesapeake have? About 50, 60?
Yeah, probably 60
Yeah,
some
so
cars.
240 cars. These guys are coming from around
the country.
Yeah.
There was a Cayman there from Washington State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
there
do
was-
you have to qualify? Like, what? Like, does it?
No.
What does a novice accidentally show up and try to
there,
run?
there actually were no novices, I don't think, at this.
Or so how
at
do
this
they keep those
autocross.
people from not showing up?
I'll tell you. So, season pass holders with SCCA are able to get first dibs at a Pro Solo.
Uh-huh.
So, season pass holders, Pro Solo registration opens, and I don't know, let's say 100, 150 people sign up. I don't know if that's actually the case. Once that's over and they have their chance, then it opens up to regular people who don't have a season pass like me. And just like our Treffin registrations, I was sitting at the computer right when, the registration opened to everyone else, and I ended up being able to register.
How quickly did it sell out?
I don't think it sold out as quickly as I thought, but I believe it was sold out. And, yeah, it's just the top level autocrossers. But we haven't even gotten into what makes Pro Solo different at this point.
I noticed you start off with a tree.
Yep. So
Yeah.
there is a Christmas tree or a drag light tree. And if you're watching the YouTube channel, you'll also see that there are 2 cars running at once.
side by side, not on the
side
court.
by
Yeah.
side. There are 2
Yeah.
different courses. There's a
Oh.
left side and a right side.
Now, are those courses a mirror image of each other?
They are not a mirror image.
Oh, they're
They're
not.
somewhat close, like, depending, but at FedEx Field, the camber of the lot, like, each side is so different from
Okay.
the other.
Uh-huh.
And one side actually turned out to be faster than the other. The left side, my best time was a 36.6, and on the right side, it was a 32.9.
Oh.
And I think when the light goes off, and you have looks like a drag strip light.
Yep,
That's
it
when
is a drag
timing
strip.
starts, right?
So timing starts when the light turns green.
Green, yeah.
But you have your 2 staging lights. You have pre-stage and stage, so you roll up the light, and if you're watching this again near the beginning, you'll see there's a countdown timer. You
Yeah.
have 15 seconds from the last car goes out for you to do a burnout if you want. Pull up to the pre-stage, light that up, then the stage light, both are lit up. Then you wait there until the countdown's down, goes to 0. When that happens, you'll hear a beep.
Yeah.
And then the person sitting in the center has a button, so it's not automatic. He presses the button to start the drag light tree. So it's random each time in that sense. So when the button's pressed, you have the 3 yellow lights and a green light. And those are separated by half a second. First light, second light, third light on the gas off the clutch, then the green light happens. You do it before the green light because you have about a 1-foot rollout, just like at a drag strip, before you actually cross the light that starts your time. But as soon as the green, and that's why reaction times are part of this as well. So a good reaction time, a perfect one is 0.500. Anything under that, it's a red light, you jumped it. You want to be getting in the 0.550 or 0.6 something. And I was getting 0.5s and 0.6s.
That's pretty
on my
good.
run.
'Cause you don't drag race.
I don't.
Well,
I've done bracket racing once.
Yeah, that's pretty
back in the
good.
day.
Yeah. That's harder than it looks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
you
get
have to
the
time
reaction,
it.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
a turbocharged car, for example, is going to be tougher because you have to gauge the turbo lag. So our friend Al in his GTI, he had to get on full throttle, release the brake at around the second light because his boost would build and then the car would surge forward.
I would
Mine just goes boom.
I would imagine there's lots of Miatas there and maybe Subarus and
Tons
stuff
of
like that.
Miatas.
How many Porsches were there?
There were a lot. So
Really?
Miatas, BRZs, and GR86s everywhere. And then tons of GT Porsches.
Really?
GT4s. There were 4 GT4 RSs there, I think.
Really?
Several 991 GT3s. There was an RS Spider there.
Now, are those
Or
running?
Spider RS, I should say.
Are those running stock, or are those? Because usually SCCA cars are quite modified. So, are they modifying these? GT?
Some of them were. Unfortunately, all of the things or the Porsches that were running seemed to be running in my run group, which was my group S1 was split up into SSP, BS, and DSP, and XA, and XS, and all those classes that are a little bit more modified. So they were mostly running SSP. My car is DSP, so, it's a street class, but you can run like Hoosiers and have like coilovers and things like that. So there were GT3s out there running Hoosiers.
Wow.
And all that good stuff.
Now, did you find like you had your runs were 30 seconds and some change?
Yep.
How many runs did you get total for the day?
So Saturday you're supposed to get 4 runs. I should say 8 runs. So there are
A
3
day?
heats. So there are 3 heats. Friday is tech. Saturday you get your first heat, which is 2 runs on the left, 2 runs on the right, and that's all done in one session. Heat 2 is 2 runs on the left, 2 runs on the right, and you're swapping sides each run. And then on Sunday, you're supposed to get 1 heat. So 2 on the left, 2 on the right. What happened with us, and this was super cool as well, is asphalt repair was going on. So my group, which was the last group of the day, had to run on 2 heats on Sunday instead of 2 on Saturday and 1 on Sunday. So we had 1 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. They were doing asphalt repair in the middle of the day and at the end of the day, and we kept on running after that first repair and decided to just do it. So these guys come prepared for any sort of situation that's going to happen with tons of cars doing basically 12 runs each with Hoosiers all day long.
How much
few
time?
days.
How much time were you waiting in between your runs? Did it move through?
Man, I want to say it
cars.
was less than 5 minutes because
Wow.
you don't see this in the video that's on the YouTube version of this podcast, but you're just finishing and then swapping over to the other lane, and the cars are going every 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you're swapping over, you do your 15-second wait, and then you go, and everyone's doing that. So cars are going every 15 seconds through this course.
When you say they were patching up, was it SCCA or was it FedEx Field people patching
the
it up?
SCCA.
So they bring their own stuff.
Yep.
It's awesome.
They bring their own stuff, and we're able to do spot patches
Sure,
in the middle of the day, and we had to wait like half an hour to let it dry for that first one. But yeah, they're super prepared, super hardcore.
Did they still number? I remember when I went to watch years ago, decades probably. They would mark each cone on the course on a piece of paper. So if you hit it back then, I think they used to give you the paper, and if you had a question where you went off course or what you hit, they would mark on there. You hit cone 42. And you could look on the map and see cone 42.
So I didn't hit any cones crazy enough. Maybe I should have. Maybe I wasn't driving hard enough.
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
But yes, they keep track of things like that generally at the really high level national SEC.
Yeah, because this is serious stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, these guys have sponsorship. They, it's a pretty big deal if you're a pro solo champion.
Yep. And then, so now that we're on photos, here was one of the fast Porsches that was in SSP. This one was running Hoosiers. I think he was from Pennsylvania. But yeah, you get all sorts of stuff like this. WRX here. There were Exoset, I believe. The kit cars, a lot of Miatas. Here's that Washington State.
Wow.
Cayman that looked really nice. It was a 3.4S, I believe. But yeah, all sorts of cool cars. And
With cars going out so frequently, and I'm assuming because these folks are high-level drivers, did you have few people hitting cones and or looping their cars?
oh yeah, there were some people who looped their cars and hit cones. The course was complicated for sure, but it was very open, so it was deceivingly complicated. The brake zones and some of the off-camber stuff was really weird. So as people started to push, they started to hit more cones for sure.
Oh, okay.
At this autocross,
But they were still able to reset the course and keep cars going through quickly.
Still reset the course. People kept going.
Did you work the course?
I did. I was on corner 5.
Okay, so when you're not running, you're also
just like
tracking
PCA,
cones, just
you're
like
doing
PCA.
your volunteer work and all that good stuff. Now I want to get it was pretty crazy to see some of these cars because there are cars there that you don't often see at autocrosses, especially at PCA ones. And I'm sure I'll get here in a second, but there were things. What is this car up there? Old American Muscle.
Yeah.
There were boats out there
Yeah.
that were just screaming around that course.
Normally, you would say they probably handle like a pig, but if you look at the suspension of this
Oh
thing,
yeah.
I think it's pretty dialed in. It looks like
It was like you can tell.
But look, he's in a corner, and there's like no body roll.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a Ford Galaxy or something. It's just the really big old
Well, at
60s or 70s
Chesapeake,
car.
at Chesapeake this past weekend, we had a 66 Mustang that was, tricked out for autocross, and I think it was like top 5 at least. And then there was like a Pontiac Firebird, like a 70s Firebird that was also did really well. Big motors, super wide tires, super sticky tires.
Yeah.
And they did just fine.
So what was also cool is I did get to weigh my car. My class didn't need to be weighed, but with me in it, 3,130 pounds with a little less than half a tank, which means it's about 2,950 to 3,000 pounds without me in it.
Nice.
Yeah, so confirmed
cool.
what I thought I knew.
Very cool.
Yeah, they show up with everything. Very fun time.
Cool. Well, Manny, you hit the road, I think, Sunday?
Yes.
In the vintage 914 of yours.
Yeah, I thought I was going to have the oldest car, but then Rob Rohrbark showed up with his 64C, and we were the only air-cooled cars at the Chesapeake Region Poker Rally.
I think this is the car up there now, yours and his.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. It's funny because near the end of the rally, he was right behind me the whole time, and he suddenly disappeared, and I'm like, he must have got stuck in traffic or something, and turns out he ran over something. We're pretty sure he ran over something metal, and he said he thought the engine was coming apart. It was so loud, so he pulled over, and they looked underneath, and they couldn't find anything, and nothing was leaking, so we assumed that it was probably something he ran over. Maybe got caught in the axle or something.
Oh, geez.
Was making a horrendous noise.
Yeah.
But then disappeared, and he was able to get back to the brewery where we met for lunch. But yeah, it was a great rally organized by Rich Ehrlich and Martha Busso helped run it as well. They had these cool poker cards that they put Chesapeake Region photos on custom-made cards, and they handed you it out every checkpoint. Very well done, and the 914 did great. It not that I wasn't expecting it not to. It was a lot of fun to drive a 95 horsepower car when you're trying to follow a 2003, I think, 996 turbo with the X50 package.
Is your foot just like all the way down all the time?
I told Rich Ehrlich, who was down the turbo, I'm like, I was flat out, almost a tire tore, trying to keep the revs up. But yeah, it was
It's satisfying to drive a low horsepower car in just normal traffic speed because you got to anticipate everything.
You guys knew, and on Sunday it was beautiful here in Maryland, and I took the top off and able to enjoy what makes the 914 so much fun with just top down driving, windows down, and
the 356 has even less horsepower than your car, right?
I thought the C would have had like 90 horsepower, right?
The C, no.
Let's see.
A standard 1600C is probably not 90 horsepower yet. I think it's maybe 75. Maybe 75. Yours is what?
75. Yeah, the C had 95. I think it is just a C.
Yeah.
So Yeah, it may be like either way. It's we
Had fun.
we weren't going. The roads were so tight that we were not barreling through. Or
At each checkpoint, you get a card, and at the end, you have 5 cards to make your hand.
yeah,
And
5
then-
cards. They were doing it for a charity for a rescue center for dogs and cats, and so you could buy extra cards to try to make a better hand.
Yeah.
I think somebody said they should give him the award for the most donations, and he still had a crappy hand.
Oh no.
Somebody actually pulled 4 aces.
What?
Yeah, and there was 4 different packs of cards. So
Wow.
every checkpoint had a different pack of cards.
They need to buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, I realized I had because they had all for people who don't play poker, they had all the hands, so you could understand what you had. And I was joking. I said, you didn't put the crappy hand, because that's what I had. Nothing you could do with my hand, but it was a lot of fun. The thing that I really liked doing, though, was yesterday, Porsche Owens Mills invited certain members of the region who went to the tech session to the Porsche Experience at New Jersey Motorsports Park,
Oh, cool.
which we've some of us have done in the past. So for those who don't know what that is, Porsche offers this opportunity to dealers where they can invite customers or previous customers or potential customers to go to the track to experience different Porsche models. Mm-hmm. And it's basically the same scenario they have every time, where they break you into, when you first get there, they have a lunch or breakfast, depending if you're at a morning or afternoon session. And then you get to meet the instructors and the whole crew. And then you go drive over to the track and you break into 3 groups. And this time they had us already predetermined by our wristbands, different color wristbands. And they have a autocross setup where you got to drive a Macan 4S and a Taycan 4S, and you're following the instructor. So for those who've never autocrossed, Porsche is not shy about the amount of cones they use, and I'm sure in their little course they used twice as many cones as Damon saw in Pro Solo, because the cones were separated about a foot apart.
They don't want you exploring your
Right,
line.
right.
No.
They want you staying
Very
between the
defined.
lines.
Very defined course.
Yeah, it was very, very defined.
How was the Taycan? I've always wanted to autocross a Taycan.
It was, it's a funny thing. So a lot of people there had driven electric cars, but had not got to push the cars. Mm-hmm. And so, in fact, there was a guy there who was a Taycan owner, and all he wanted to do was drive the Macan. He said, I want to see. And unfortunately, I never got to speak to him because we had to go in right after him. Because I said, I got a feeling you're going to like your Taycan when it comes to this exercise. So
Yeah.
he actually got to drive the Taycan first, and then he jumped into the Macan. The Macan is, I was telling people, when you drive it on the street, it's a phenomenal car. It does its purpose. But when you go back to back with the Taycan, the Taycan, like Calvin Kim said, it's a 4-door 911.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so much more fun to toss around. But everyone was just blown away by the performance of these cars. That it just doesn't seem that something that heavy should be able to be that nimble around corners. But definite difference again between the Taycan and Macan when it came to an autocross course. The Taycan was just so much more nimble and fun to drive, especially with the 4S. I think the last time we drove was the base model. Mm-hmm. The 4S it has so much power.
Oh man,
When you're starting to smile, you got to hit the brakes and make a turn.
I so want to autocross a Taycan. I really do.
Yeah, it would have been great if we'd been able to take it on the track.
Yeah.
That would have been fun to see. So everyone got to do a run in each of the cars. Then they had the Cayenne S Coupe and the Cayenne S, the regular SUV body style, of which you cannot tell. I mean, no one can tell the difference between the two.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't even realize you're in one body style. And I guess if you sat in the back seat, maybe you could tell a little bit that it was a difference, but driving it.
You ran those through an autocross course as well?
No, we ran those on the track.
Oh, on track. Okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then we finished off by driving the base Carrera around the track, and the instructor was driving a T-Hybrid, which at first I saw a T-Hybrid, I got really excited. I'm like, oh, we're going to get to drive on the track, but it turned out it was just the instructor's car. But still a lot of fun. I showed the person I was paired with, Rob, I said, just imagine anyone who says the base car isn't enough.
Yeah.
When I hear you don't get the true Porsche experience with the base model, I laugh.
Phooey.
I said any of the base models.
Any of them.
You know, I said because he learned. He saw how some people are very timid, and even the instructor said, "Yeah, it's amazing when you put a helmet on how suddenly your aggressiveness falls out the window."
Right.
And that's how some of the people who were talking smack were like the slowest people on the course because they suddenly got very intimidated by being on a racetrack. But it's it's a very well run event by Porsche. If you get the opportunity from your dealers are the ones who essentially pay for it. And so we were there. There was Porsche Owings Mills who made it possible for me to go, as well as other Chesapeake region members. And then it was Porsche Mechanicsburg who did
The other session
with their customers, and to give you a little swag back at the end. It's a good way to spend 3 hours at the track.
Well, you can, word on the street is Porsche is pushing to have more of these types of events where they call it sort of butts and seats, getting people not only that own Porsches, but getting your friends and family that are considering, next car to get in and, convert from another brand into a Porsche. So you should check with your dealership to see.
I told them, I said, what they really should think about, having done several of these, is get some of the cars with certain options and other ones without. So people can feel what a PASM is,
right,
what Porsche torque vectoring is, the optional stuff. But they would probably sell a lot of more of these if people could go back to back and say, oh yeah, there's definitely a difference in driving one and one without. Obviously, going up there, my friend Rob was saying, he goes, is this like, did he put a hard sell for you to buy a car? And I laughed. I said, no, it's not like a timeshare. I said, these are just instructors. They're not salespeople. So they just want to make sure you have a safe but fun time. But they're not selling any cars. And that would be something that, not that I'm encouraging them to have salespeople there, but certainly people there to help, maybe product specialists that could tell you what the differences are with certain options, because you are getting to go back to back, which is really unique, and you can really feel the difference for anyone who's trying to decide between a Macan and a Taycan. They can definitely go back to back and see how each one handles.
And it's really the appropriate place to do this and test your car. And this is going to be somewhat of a smooth segue to, if you would allow me to get on my soapbox a little bit. There's recently been a lot of incidents and videos and such where, not only Porsche owners, but just some car enthusiasts are a bit overzealous. Let's put it that way, out on the street. And again, not to sound preachy, I love your exhaust. I love your cool car, but please behave on the streets, because there's so many people trying to cancel our car culture that you don't need to help them. You don't need to give them extra ammo, so to speak. So you see the videos of cars leaving Cars and Coffee and just wailing on the exhaust or revving their cars to the moon. Like, there's no need for that. And I don't understand, like, how can we get some of the car enthusiasts to understand, like, that's not appropriate. Going out to the track, what you did, and the thing is, you can't even explore your car to 8/10, let's say, out on a public road, and you shouldn't. Going to the track, going to these experiences, you can really see your car shine. Do that stuff.
And if things go wrong on the street, don't just think about yourself. Think about what could happen to other people. It's out of your control.
And your life can change. In
your life.
Not from you getting hurt, but just the amount of legal issues you're going to run into.
We have. Here's the thing. Everyone has a phone with a camera. Many people have dash cameras, front and rear dash cameras. Yeah. So and if you drive a car that is kind of unique, either in color or
Ruby Stone, you're not gonna hide in a Ruby Stone.
There's only so many Ruby Stone cars, right? And in our state, and especially a lot of our cars, because we're huge PCA supporters, we run PCA plates on our cars, so it's not hard to find you. Like, let's not forget, you can't hide from this stuff.
Assume, if anything, if injuring yourself or other people isn't enough, just assume, everyone's filming you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they are.
They are.
Don't just
They
assume
are.
it. They are.
Oh, and forget the possibility of you messing up your car, possibly hurting someone too. But the ability for us car enthusiasts to come together and do fun stuff is hard because it's so easy for, venues to simply say, no, we don't want people congregating and, and putting a negative spin on a car gathering. It's hard to get places to put these shows together and such. And, by folks doing this stuff, and people say, oh, it's the younger kids that don't. No, it's not just the younger kids. There are a lot of younger kids that are doing stuff like that. There's also younger kids that totally get it, but the older people too. Like I see older people in, big hot rods or even Lambos and, GT3s, with the GMG exhaust. And yeah, I love it. It sounds great, but you don't need to rev it to 9,000 RPM while you're at the stoplight. Like
you can't be anonymous now in this
no,
world.
you can't. Yeah.
Even if you say you're not online, if you go to any kind of public event with a Porsche or any kind of car, odds are you've done something unique to it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much for the community to say, "Oh, I know that car.
Not
I took
at all.
a picture of it, or I remember seeing that car." And then within hours or less, they've identified who the owner is.
Here's a silly notion. You're really not anonymous if you have your Instagram handle on your quarter window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something that, and this runs from doing tours to Cars and Coffee.
Yeah.
Cars and Coffee, you'll hear it all the time where you get the guys revving their engines or leaving and showing off, trying to when they leave, and it ends up pissing the neighbors off, the owners of the shops, and then you lose a lot.
Yeah. And not just at the meets themselves, on the tours, right? On the tours, there's no one drives 55. Like I totally get that, and I understand if you want to have an experience and enjoy the curves. Let's say you're on the tail of the Dragon or something like that. But there is a reasonable speed, and most PCA events, if not all of them, there's a lead and a sweep to make sure that everyone behaves. And what kills me is in the past, I've heard of non-PCA members go, "Oh, I don't run with PCA because, they drive too slow. I want to exercise my car. So I go out with my buddies and, we really, guess what, guys? It's fun and all until it's not. Right. And there's a whole reason why PCA follows the rules of the road and not pass. And we have safety procedures and stuff like that, is so that we can keep doing this and having fun. But if you really want to flex to 7 to 8 tenths, go to the track.
Or an autocross.
Or an autocross.
Yeah,
then you don't have to worry about law enforcement. And guess what? You're going to find out.
You want to know how crappy of a driver
I
you
was
are?
gonna- exactly.
Go to autocross.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to
And
say.
watch you get humbled if your 500 horsepower car when a Miata beats you.
It was funny as I to turn it to a positive thing. As I showed up, as I said, I haven't autocrossed in a while, and I showed up to Chesapeake and I saw a lot of cars that looked like hot ticket cars and modified with nice numbers and this. I'm like, oh gosh, how am I going to do against these people?
Were you faster than them?
Yeah, I crushed them. So
There's you found out they weren't there for the autocross; they were just there for the stadium.
Exactly. There's a lot to learn, and even as long as I've driven, watching someone like a David Kritcher in his GT3 or Dan, what's his name, in his GTS, which is a pretty stock car.
Dan R. Yep.
It just goes to show that I still got a lot to learn, right? I still got, after all these years, I've been autocrossing since the early 90s, and I still got lots to learn. And I still go, man, I probably had a few tenths somewhere. That's what's really fun. So, again, I apologize for getting on my soapbox. I just feel like all of our members, all of you that are driving out there, you are an extension of PCA. It's not hard to find you. There's a lot of eyes out there.
Well, they call up the office.
They call up the office. Oh, yeah. Not only will they call up the office, but they will send emails with, footage, or they'll have your license plate, or they'll see and they'll say, you need to reach out to this member.
And without saying anything more, why do you think we're talking about this right now?
Exactly. If it wasn't happening, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So I implore you, everyone out there, have fun, be respectful of the environment, and just be careful. The biggest thing is just to be safe for yourself and for those of you that are around. We want to be able to enjoy the vehicles that we have, but if people keep doing this, man, we're just going to get shut down and get canceled.
Or if law enforcement gets involved, you just don't want to get in that kind of trouble.
Exactly. All right, let's make sure you head over to PCA.org and sign up for PCA's newsletters, performance news, e-brake news, and Mart Fresh, all free. Porsche news, we've got 2 items you have listed here, but before you get into that, Manny and Damon, I want to congratulate a Maryland native. We've had an interview with her before. She is the VP of Marketing, and she was recently recognized as among the 100 leading women in North American's auto industry. So kudos to you, Aisha, and congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, Aisha. That's awesome.
You should be number one.
She's number
in our
one.
book, yeah.
She's number one in our hearts. And Timo said this of her, from the campaign launches of the new models, Macan and Taycan, to the events such as Rennsport Reunion, her fingerprints are on all of those. So all of those elevated marketing events at Porsche, it's through her efforts, managing the events, the sponsorships, and directing the experience. So even the event that you went to, like, she's a part of that, right? The one at New Jersey Motorsports Park. So congratulations.
Definitely the most stylish, because I always feel like a slob when I go talk
I
to
know.
her. Because even for something that you don't think you have to dress up for, it looks like she's ready to be at the Met Gala or something. I'm like, I am way underdressed when I feel
And what I love most about her is she also is like us in the sense where when things need to get done, she rolls up her sleeves. And I remember us schlepping boxes and setting up the tent at the Baltimore Grand Prix. You remember that? Mm-hmm. When she came in and did all that. So again, congratulations. We talked about the 911 GT2 RS earlier in the podcast, and this one is your first news item.
It's Spy Shots, what they believe is the new GT2 RS being tested at the Nürburgring. And of course, it's under disguise, but it's something that it's not a secret. This whole hybrid 911 thing is not any big surprise, because believe it or not, they were talking about it at Rennsport 6. And I remember they came out, they were talking with the new GT4 had just come out, and people were asking if that had room for a hybrid system. And
there's a little sticker.
Yeah. And there was Pruniger had explained that this one didn't have it, but the next one would. So it was no secret that Porsche had been experimenting with the hybrid system. And so now that we know what it can do with the T-Hybrid GTS, the big question is how far can they go? And that's what the GT2 RS is going to answer for us. And
so with the current generation GT2 RS, we're at 700 horsepower. So with hybrid technology, is it simply filling in the sort of the dips of torque, or do you think it's going to push to 750, 800 horsepower?
I think just like the GTS, it's going to do both.
A little bit of both?
Yep. Yeah, I think it's going to be the T-Hybrid system. It might even be the same one, no more power, I would almost think. But yeah, just added onto a more powerful flat six.
And then
a twin turbo flat six rather than
from the Spy Shots,
I'm
even more aggressive aero.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
I was going to say they've learned
probably
a lot.
curve system like the GT3 RS as well. The rear wing.
Oh, yeah.
Not curves,
DRS.
DRS, yeah. It's all that they've learned, like the aero, the lighter weight construction material. I think they're going to throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at this thing to really show what they can do.
Wow.
But in between, the question is, will we see a 911 turbo hybrid before that even comes out? It's got to come out similar, either before or after.
I think so.
But that's nothing also that's going to be a surprise, is that the next turbo, or at least Turbo S, will be a hybrid.
So does this also signal, usually when the GT2 comes out, it's also the end of that platform? So does that mean, obviously we can't go to 993 because that already exists. So the next version of the 911 after the 992, whatever it might be called, should be on the horizon.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Right?
I mean, the 992's been out for, 2019 or 2020?
2020 here in the U.S.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, if
an
history
old car
runs
now.
if history runs true and the cycles and stuff like that, that means this is like the last hoorah until the next platform.
Yeah, the question is, what would they call it internally? 994 doesn't sound right.
Yeah. You can't do 993, can't do 995.
Unless they decide to
996.
do the jump into what they did with all the other four doors. Start
fresh with
no,
something.
like
Some letters and
980 or
Yeah.
980 or something that's not then roll off the tongue, and they force you to use just the marketed name, not the internal designation.
Oh, we'll have to see. All right, the next item up, we go back in time, and this one has to do with a 910.
So this is will end in an hour, a little over an hour. Won't bring a trailer, but they're auctioning off the first 910. I believe the chassis number is 001. And right now it's hanging at 1.5 million. So the 910 is something that can also be made in the street legal.
How so?
Because it's still so they had the 904, then the 906, then the 910, then the 907. So that go in order here. Then the 908. The 907 was the big when things really changed. That's when like PX said, "Okay, we're getting dead serious about this." They moved it became right hand steering instead of left hand steering. It was a car that was a true like race car. It wasn't really street legal anymore.
Cam
But,
Ingram at Road Scholars, I think I remember him saying in one of our videos, the 910 was the last prototype racer that you could register for drive comfortably on the street.
Huh.
Yeah.
I think it's Peak to Peak video he has.
Yeah.
I think there's some 910s in there along with the 906s that they drive out in Colorado, I believe, for the mountain passes. Yeah, it's I wish I had this cash. I would buy this in a heartbeat.
It has how much longer before it ends?
1 hour as we're
1 hour. That's
recording this.
the last 10 minutes is where you
Yeah,
start.
28 of them were built. Believe it or not, this was back in the era when they were still racing a flat 6 2-liter. So as mighty as it looks and everything, it still had a 2-liter in it. It was a car that they use quite often in hill climbs as well. Yeah, this is all the era as Ferdinand Piëch, who was the head of motorsports, was just spending money hand over fist and culminating with the 917.
Wow. So you look at that and you think about how you want to win the lottery to buy that car. I look at that and I'm very interested in the asymmetrical livery of the car and how it has that one orange fender. I wonder how that would look on a modern day car if you just took one fender corner of the car.
I think the Corvette Grand Sport, the C6 or C7, had like the two little blue
The stripes.
things on
Stripes,
the one.
yeah.
The stripes I
on
see,
the-
but that's
on the
like a
fender.
that's a full fender. Like, could I rock that in the 996 and just make
And normally
one
they did this so the pit crew could
think
tell
Connor
which
has
car it
some-
was.
Oh.
Because they had a team of cars, and they're usually all white.
Yeah.
And so they would paint something to be able to tell difference-wise, color-wise from far away, which team car it was. They didn't have the data acquisition they have nowadays to know exactly
Right.
where on track the cars were.
That makes sense.
So sometimes they would paint the mirrors different, something that the pit crew could tell what color
Easily
or what car it
identifiable.
was. Yeah.
I don't know. That might be something to. I mean, I could probably wrap my fender with.
Well, before you do that, ask Connor if he has some extra red spray paint.
I am not gonna. I am not gonna spray paint my bumper. I will wrap, but I will not spray paint. Oh my goodness.
You would get so many questions where people asking you if you bought that at like a junkyard.
Yeah,
with this color. Why did
exactly.
you do this?
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Events coming up. Actually, it's quiet right now. Maybe it's the calm before the storm because registration opens up for Porsche Parade, the second round of registration.
6 minutes for here, isn't
In
it?
6 minutes from here. So we're gonna wrap this up here shortly and take care of all of our Porsche Parade goers. Porsche Parade, Oklahoma City. There's still room if you'd like to go. It's July 6th through 12th. Phase 2, as I said, is now open. Works Reunion Monterey, August 15th. Registration is also currently open, and I can tell you, I think this is probably going to be one of the largest Works Reunion Montereys we've had. We've got a lot of sponsors and exhibitors that want to come, and registration is quite strong. Treffin at Sea, our 70th anniversary cruise, Saturday, August 30th to September 6th. Things are coming together. Of course, we have Alan Springer. We have folks from Pirelli, Tag Heuer, Kenneth On from Broad Arrow. And the itinerary and the agenda should be a lot of fun. If you haven't considered it, look us up on pca.org and check out the cruise there. Recent video. This one was a funny video that I think those of you that have listened to us for quite some time, Jim Hemmig, our marketing director, also is AKA the Porsche Bike Whisperer. We had 2 bikes on a recent trip from Buffalo to Albany. That was quite the ride, and we had 2 e-bikes to review, and we put something simple together. And Damon did a pretty nice cut on it.
Yeah, if you're watching the YouTube version of this podcast, you're getting a little bit of preview, but Fuki Lee, Jim Hemmig, and Vu, we took out, I think it was 2 or 3 98 bike S's, and we happened to have the 2 e-bikes in for a different event, and Porsche Design said, yeah, keep them, until we want them back, and do a review if you want. And we jumped.
I will say I was not comfortable going on camera with my bike gear, but I had to be legit,
you were
right?
Good.
Yeah, I had to be legit, and I had to wear my bike gear.
Yeah.
How come you weren't the one pedaling up the hill?
Fuki's the Iron Man, not me.
With all that gear, I would expect you to be pedaling hard.
No. For those of you who'd like to do some wheel-to-wheel racing, but online with other PCA members, check out PCASimRacing.com. There's videos on our YouTube channel as well. If you want to see what some of the broadcasts that they've done in the past, it's a lot of fun, and they can show you how to set up your rig and be competitive.
And you don't have to wear a driving suit when you do sim
You
racing.
don't.
You can if you want to, but you don't have to.
No judgment. PCA Insider swag is available. Just head over to PCA's web store. We've got mugs, we've got bottles, we've got t-shirts. And if you're looking for a PCA Insider decal or 2, just send us your address information to podcast@pca.org and we'll send you a few decals. With that, gentlemen, anything else before we wrap up and head off to take care of our parade goers?
I think I'm good.
All good?
Yep.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Consider sharing our show with fellow Porsche enthusiasts. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll catch you down the road.